Welcome to Catholic Education Matters, the podcast that celebrates the beauty of Catholic education. Join us as we share the stories of those making a lasting impact on Catholic education. Let's begin. Welcome to Catholic Education Matters. My name is Troy Van Vliet. I'm the foundation of the new St. John Paul II Academy in South Surrey, White Rock area. And we've come up with this new podcast, Catholic Education Matters. It's a bit of a play on words, as it is something, of course, that we believe matters.
It matters for sure, Troy.
And also that there's many matters that come up. And today, for kicking off our podcast, we have the ever so special Archbishop Michael Miller, who has helped champion our new school and has championed many other things as well. You've been here now since 2007.
I have.
In the Vancouver
That's
Archdiocese.
17 years already.
17 years. And before that, you've been a bishop for 20 years. Yes.
Coming on 21.
Some fun facts. And you've also wrote a book on Catholic education, and which is why we're here today. Okay. So in the book, I might add, is called The Holy See's Teaching on Catholic Schools.
It is, and it wasn't really written as a book. It was a talk that I gave at the Catholic University of America some 2005, whatever that is.
Wow.
That's 19
it must have been
years
quite
ago.
A talk if it turned into a book.
Well, it happened that it was helpful to teachers in schools and people doing evaluations. Wow. No idea. I didn't write it as a book. They just asked for the manuscript, and but it has sold pretty well. Particularly,
I've heard it's being used all over.
It is. It's widely used, much to my surprise.
So one of my questions was, what drew you into writing a book? But you said it started out as a speech, but you obviously had interest in the speech.
I did, because I was working in Rome at that time. I was working for the Vatican in their congregation or ministry of Catholic education, which had an area for schools and faculties. And so I used to give a fair number of talks on schools, particularly in places where they were maybe facing some difficulties. And so I had a chance to think about what makes a school Catholic and how can we judge whether a school is Catholic. What are some of the criteria that we can use to say, this place is Catholic and following sort of what the church expects or not. So that was the idea behind it.
Right. So there's a lot of material there in terms of, like you talked about, some of the challenges that come up in Catholic schools.
There are a lot of challenges in Catholic schools, particularly, I guess they're really cultural challenges. I mean, that we're living in this epoch now, which is no longer, frankly, kind of Christianity. It doesn't infuse the culture. Right. And so Catholic schools are more countercultural than they were at one time.
Right.
They're more different from public schools. They didn't used to be so different, but Catholic teaching and so on really is now, I hate to say it, but it's at variance with some of the values that are being proposed in the culture. Right. And so Catholicism has a distinct take on education and what should be engaged in it, and we just have to be reminded of our heritage.
Of our heritage, of our roots, of our foundations.
Of our foundation.
Yeah.
And why they're more and more necessary, actually, than ever before.
Right. Do you think there is not just a conversion, but say a reversion of people coming back to those foundations now? Because it's like the pendulum swung so far.
A good question. I think we're seeing that in a lot of our schools in the Vancouver Archdiocese, or some of them, where people who previously might not have been attracted to a Catholic school are now thinking that, yes, this is probably worth the investment, and we like what that school is proposing, because we're not so sure that we can depend upon a public school to convey the kind of moral and ethical life that we want for our kids. If you're Catholic, they also add the religious. But for some people, They see the school as upholding values that families hold dear, even if they don't share the same Catholic religious values.
That's right. So there's that moral compass.
There's very much
that the Catholic schools have that
Yes.
some of the other public schools.
Some of the other public
Yeah.
schools don't have, or it varies so much from locality to locality. And
Right.
and in Catholic schools, there's a certain guarantee
Right.
that
Right,
this is what you're going to get if it's a Catholic school in the Archdiocese of Vancouver. You can be pretty assured of.
Pretty assured.
Yeah,
Yes.
you can be.
And because most of the schools in the Archdiocese right now, they're all under the CISVA.
They're all under the Catholic Independent School Board. Our elementary schools, but there are other schools like the John Paul II Academy, Vancouver College, St. Thomas More, Little Flower, Traditional Learning Academy.
Right.
They're in the affiliated
Right. Right.
status.
Exactly.
But they're all Catholic schools because ultimately it's the bishop who
signs
lets the
off on
school-
that.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Let's use the term Catholic. It's a bit of a brand, you know.
Yes, it is a brand.
Yeah.
It is a brand. Now, this is something that we're facing with St. John Paul II Academy.
Yep.
Currently, we're really tiny. There's only 75 students. The new campus is under construction, which is ultimately going to be built for 900 students.
Yes.
And we have such an incredible culture that we've already created.
Wonderful.
And the students that have graduated already, we've had 2 graduating classes, are excelling.
Yes, I know. I was at graduation and they're going to all these great universities and so
yes, exactly. So my daughter being one of them, I'm really proud of that.
Yeah, she's at Trinity Western.
She's at Trinity Western, CPC. She's
Yep,
there
and CPC,
and thriving. She's doing really well, enjoying it. But we want to try as best we can to keep that culture, because this school is going to grow from 75 students up to it's open for 540, but then it's going to be 900 students.
Right.
And we don't want to be just Catholic in name because it was approved by the bishop.
No.
We want to be Catholic in our teachings and in our culture, which is extremely important.
It's very important, and you have a good head start, because to be able to start with a small group, it's easier to establish, to get the roots of a culture.
Right. I'm glad you said that.
No, I think that's very true. I mean, if you had 120 kids coming in the first, it's just harder. I mean, a smaller group lends itself to identifying with one another and developing ways of doing things and thinking about things and celebrating and so on.
That's right.
So it's an advantage, I think.
Yes. Okay. Well, like I said, I'm glad you said that, because it's a fear. We have a strong board made of parents and then also of other supporting groups.
Right.
And we all have the same vision that we want to, keep our Catholic school Catholic, not just in name, but in practice every day. And what a lot of people don't realize is that the Catholic school system, along with the hospital system, has formed a lot of the school systems today, both public and private, and what have you. That goes way back in history.
It sure does. I mean, I know for the healthcare, it goes back to the 1890s when the sisters first established a 25-bed hospital, St. Paul's, and the other. Just last week, we were at the dedication of the cornerstone. It's going to be 564 single beds, and if you've seen the structure at offstage, it's an enormous thing. That's all. It was all started by some sisters coming west, and the Catholic school system in British Columbia, actually the school system, not just the Catholic school system, to the Sisters of St. Anne from Victoria.
The Sisters of St. Anne, which is incredible.
So we got good roots.
We got some really good roots. We have a good foundation.
We do.
I'm just going to get back to your book for a second. There was a quick little write-up here that I'm going to read out, because it actually describes the book in a little quick synopsis.
Okay.
It says, Archbishop Miller articulates the Church's vision of education, which is rooted in the belief that every student is created in the image and likeness of God. Mm-hmm. He incites the importance of integrating faith and reason, ensuring that students receive a holistic education that nurtures their intellect, character, and faith. The book delves into key documents from the Holy See, providing insight into the Church's expectations for Catholic schools and the responsibilities of educators, parents, and the broader community. Does that sound like a pretty good description?
That sounds like a pretty good description. There's a lot in that.
There's a lot in that. There's a lot in that. One of the things that I wanted to point out, it talks about the Church's expectations for Catholic schools. What are some of those expectations, would you say?
That is a good question. I guess, well, some of the expectations would be that it's in its teaching of the faith, that it be teaching the faith of the Church and not some wild-eyed opinions and sort of goofiness that can sometimes infect
Sneaks
things.
in there.
It can sneak in if you're not careful.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a kind of a fundamental thing. I think also that the notion that is so important is that the addressing the whole person, the holistic view. Certainly the academic, the psychological, the athletic, and so on. All of those things, but also the religious and spiritual. It has to be that, sort of in the school curriculum, it's not a Catholic school. The academy won't be a Catholic school isn't just because it teaches religion.
There's a religion class.
It's a way of teaching the young people to think about the world, about their place in it, their responsibility in it, and that it should infuse the whole educational project. I think that's really important. Right. Also, I think Catholic schools identified by, it should be evident from the moment you walk in the school that this is a Catholic school. I mean, we have a great tradition of art, iconography, celebrations, just things that are part of Catholic life that should be also evident in the school. There's something, because Catholics we're visible sacramental people, and we use signs and celebrations and objects and so on as part of our faith. Because of the incarnation, Jesus became one of us. Also, I think an approach to students, that they are to be approached as they have their own really innate dignity.
Right.
They are created in God's image and likeness. There was a former superintendent who used to say that our schools are in the saint-making business, that these, not gooey saints, but they're made to make people truly good. That's part of what we're interested in, that they be they be saints in sort of popular language. And I think that those are at least some of the characteristics that make our schools unique and special and distinctive, and they should be distinctive.
They should.
Yeah.
They should. One of the things we're going through right now, our society is going through putting together our vision statement.
Good.
And our mission statement.
Those are tough exercises.
And our core values. Yes. Is it ever difficult?
Yes, of course.
It is.
It always is.
And but it's exciting at the same time because these like minds that are coming together are seeing the importance of this, because it's not just that you come up with a statement like this. You got to live those statements. Right. And they are statements that you can reflect back to on a big decision-making that you're doing.
That's exactly when they're helpful.
Exactly. So when you're in a tough decision, it's like, wait a minute, does this fit
the mission?
Does this fit the mission? Does it fit our vision? Does it fit the mission? Right. Does it fit in with values with our core values?
Yeah.
Exactly.
No, those are helpful exercises. Often it's about the words chosen.
Yes.
Wordsmithing.
Exactly.
Quite a task in a group.
Yeah. And if we include this word, it's like, well, then we have to include this one. So maybe we should leave that one out then, and then away it goes.
Oh, I've been in these.
Yes. But it's a fascinating process. But you brought up, like, the school, it has to emulate that we're faith-based.
Yes,
that we
indeed.
are a Catholic school, which is one of the reasons why we built I believe, the largest chapel.
I think you're right.
In all of the Catholic schools.
I think you're right. Right.
And it's huge. And not only is it's right in the front of the school.
That's also very important. Those are all they mark. They send signals.
Yeah.
you don't have to even say much. It's there.
We've got a 2-story stained glass cross above, in the back of
You are the biggest chapel in our Catholic schools.
And it's everybody has to drive by it during drop off. Like you drive by it when you see it, and when you come up, you see it from almost virtually all parts of the school when you're inside the school as
Wonderful.
well, which is really exciting.
It is.
A family has generously also donated a life-size table with 12 seats and Jesus sitting there at the Last Supper. And now the disciples' seats are empty, but Jesus is there. And that's going to be right in the dining hall. So the kids will be able to eat.
So that's fun.
And celebrate the Last Supper.
They'll jump into the other seats.
Yeah, they'll jump
that's
into
okay.
They'll be and that's what it's meant to. I'm sure there'll be photo ops there.
Right.
But it's a reminder of, and we need those reminders in the school as well. And it has to be woven into the science class, the math class, the English class, the basketball team, the volleyball, the sports, the music.
Right.
It's got to be woven into all of it. So here's a tough one.
Okay.
How do we make sure with our teachers that they're doing that? Coaches.
I'll be honest with you, Troy. They probably need they need some formation in that. They need some help because teachers are traditionally here, certainly in BC, they're not formed on how to do that.
Right.
Because we don't have a Catholic school of education.
Right.
They're good people and they know how to teach their subject matter and they're well prepared. But in order to integrate the Catholic, we often call it the Catholic worldview, or they need some help. Fortunately, there's a great book called Educating for Eternity by a fellow from Saskatoon, or Regina, I think maybe is now, Brett Scalford. He's done workshops already here in the Archdiocese, but I must admit they probably need a little professional development in that area because nobody's really people have done it without thinking about it, but maybe not as intentionally as needs to be drawn out. This is across the whole system.
Right. So it's not just in one school. It's not. No. It's throughout all of the Catholic school system.
And people, for example, are getting used to the idea of threading bigger ideas throughout curriculum. There's been a big emphasis in the recent years on Indigenous learning and so on. That there's not necessarily a course, but it's to infuse. Yeah. And so the idea that you can sort of infuse a curriculum with certain takes on life, that idea is already rooted.
We should be able to do that.
Well, I think, and with help, I mean, there are increasingly, that's everywhere in the Catholic schools of the Archdiocese.
And does the CISVA have any role in that?
Yes. Well, they often provide faith development days and professional development days and so on. They sure do. They actually have to take the lead more than an individual school. Yeah. And they're very aware of the need, it's called, to foster a Catholic worldview throughout the curriculum. Right. It's one of their strategic goals.
So we've got a shortage of teachers right now, not just in the Catholic system, but across
everywhere.
The board. Public system, private system, there's a shortage of teachers right now. So it's a challenge. There's a bit of a difference in salaries too between the public system and the Catholic system.
Yeah, by the time you take in union dues and so on, it becomes
it's closer.
It's much closer,
So, but being a Catholic teacher, we're also of the belief that it's a bit of a calling as well.
It is a calling.
Not just to be a teacher, but to be a Catholic school teacher.
I mean, people, they certainly need good salaries. I mean,
yeah, of course.
But that there is a small difference is probably not a bad thing in a way. It's a slight marker. And a person can say, I'm doing this for a bit of a sacrifice. Not too much because they have families, but a bit.
It's a bit of a signal. It's a
bit of a signal to the person that I'm serious about this.
Right.
God willing, if somebody dropped $100 million on a place, maybe we could give everybody a huge bonus. But that doesn't look as. The Lotto Max never hits $100 million.
Yeah. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. It doesn't seem like. Well, I haven't had any luck with that anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So, your support of St. John Paul II Academy, it's not unique in the sense that you've supported. I mean, Notre Dame's been rebuilt recently. STA's been rebuilt recently.
STA's been rebuilt. There's a big rebuild now going on at Holy Cross.
At Holy Cross, which is in Surrey. And SJB's got some upgrades
They've
as well.
had some upgrades, and then let alone a lot of grade schools too. A lot of the elementaries.
And the elementary school. Vancouver College just got rebuilt.
Yes, that we made a small donation, but that was private donations, and they did a fantastic job.
Exactly.
Actually.
So, what now? Obviously, you're a massive supporter of Catholic education. You believe in it.
I do.
But SJP2,
Right.
St. John Paul II Academy. I mean, I believed it was needed. There was others that
you had
believed it needed.
you had a great vision and great risk taker you are too.
But what? It's been a long haul for me.
I've
but,
had since 2017. Is that when you first came?
2015 was 2015
when
you,
was that when you first came to? Is that going on 10 years now?
to the first deanery meeting? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and we had already done work before that to present to the deanery, so we had been tooling around with it for a year or two.
Yeah.
Before, so it was a long process, but it wouldn't have gotten off of the ground. I mean, we put a team together, an ad hoc board that that people chipped in, and we had an accountant, a lawyer, and somebody that had built a private school in the past.
Right.
We put this team together. And we presented it to the deanery, then ultimately to you, but you supported it, and not without researching it more and figuring out who the team was. And but what were the key reasons why you got behind it? Why did you?
I guess what.
Because it's been tried before in South Surrey and
I mean, I think part of it was you presented a very good case. The need is self-evident, given the growth of South Surrey. Yeah. The only Catholic high school being overflowing, at Holy Cross. Your willingness to take risks and to do it and to invest. I mean, the idea that people will invest time, energy, resources, and so on is very compelling. Yeah. Also, it's exciting that it would be the newest school, kind of, Catholic school, that the other Catholic schools sort of in a similar position, Little Flower and STMC and Vancouver College, they were all founded by religious communities.
Right.
And in the age of the laity, when religious communities aren't founding schools anymore, to be able to see that, lay people emerge. They have the idea. They own it. That to me is exciting and really kind of points in a particular way to how the contemporary church should be working. Right. I mean, it's the lay faithful are 99% or more of it, and coming to the top. So that's kind of inspiring to me, and also that it was well thought out. Mm-hmm. And a bit exciting.
Yeah.
There's
it has been exciting all along. And I know that the population definitely supports it there.
What's Surrey. The growth in South Surrey? It's huge, is it not?
Well, I mean, it's huge. Yeah. The overall population growth, it was growing at 2,000 people per month there for a while. I'm not sure what the stats are today. I know a year or two ago, there was 85,000 kids in K-12 in Surrey, versus 50,000 in Vancouver.
I remember seeing those statistics, and I know Surrey's
Vancouver's was shrinking, and
schools.
Surrey's was expanding every year. So one's growing, and one was. It's not going to shrink forever, but that was just sort of the demographics, and you can see them growing. And we had one Catholic school at the time in Surrey, and 4 in Vancouver, and it was like, well, we've So that's great. And St. John Paul II.
Yes. Good name you chose.
Great. Well, okay, so we suggested it. We suggested a few. Ultimately, you picked, and I'm so glad you did.
Save some other arguments.
We were in. There was other good saints that were put forward.
We got a pantheon of good saints.
We have a pantheon, and this one came up, and it was like it almost seemed like it was overnight. We sent them to you, and the next day it was like there's your saint. And why did you pick St. John Paul
Well,
II?
I mean, I'm a great admirer of John Paul II. Throughout most of my priesthood, he was the Pope, and of course, he was an educator himself. He, at the higher level, the university level, and he had a great emphasis on one of the passage you read on the importance of faith and reason working together. That Catholics, we're not ashamed of science or anything like that, or learning, or looking at the world as it is, and so on. That this is part of our tradition, but it works together and along with faith. And in fact, in the long term, faith strengthens our mind to see things in a wider perspective, as opposed to excluding. A lot of secular knowledge excludes God. We don't really exclude anything because we're not afraid of science. We're not afraid of people thinking. And so, I mean, and John Paul was a great advocate of that. One of his great encyclicals or special letters was called On Faith and Reason. And so, also when I worked at the Vatican on 2 occasions, and the first one was all under John Paul. In the 1990s, when I returned and worked later, then he died sort of after I'd been there about a year. But
so he has a place in your heart as well.
He has a place. It plays a place in my heart and in the life of the Archdiocese too.
Well, I was in high school at St. Thomas More when he visited here.
Right, and what was that? 84, wasn't it?
84, in BC Place, and then out in Abbotsford as well.
Right.
And that was an exciting time. And he was pro-youth.
Yes, he was a great. He had a special knack of communicating with young people. He just had that. He had a charisma. He was a bit of an actor, He had that in his background. He knew how to play a crowd and be appealing, and all for the good, because it was all for the cause of Jesus Christ. So.
That's right. And World Youth Day, I believe he was.
He was the one who started World Youth Days, and he came to North America twice, once to Denver in the 90s, 93, and then Toronto in 2002.
Right. Yeah.
And he was also the inspiration behind a number of priests in the Archdiocese who were very influenced by him.
Okay.
So John Paul he's a great patron, and he was a great kind of a strong guy. I remember I grew up in Ottawa, and my sister, they had a cabin, by Ski Hill, and they had a picture of John Paul with old-fashioned skis and everything in their mud room, with his blue toque.
Isn't that something? Yeah. I think he was a soccer player as well.
He was a good athlete. He was a good athlete. He liked it. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Well, we couldn't be happier with that name for the school. It's been absolutely fantastic, and it's the name here too. At the
it is.
Pastoral
I mean,
Center.
John Paul is well known in the diocese. It's not introducing.
Yeah, absolutely. What advice would you give to educators striving to instill timeless virtues and values into their students?
Teachers, I think the first thing would be for them to recognize the nobility of their vocation, that a Catholic teacher is dealing with shaping of certainly minds, and if they're bodies, but also shaping of souls or the inner person. And to be able to do that, you have to have a little bit of a reflective character yourself.
Right.
The biggest thing.
Humility.
Humility and prayerfulness. That there's a time, even for teachers as busy as they are, is to take the time to reflect on what they're doing and their own relationship with God, because you can't talk about it with others if you don't have it yourself. So.
Yep. Yeah, it's tough to sell it if you haven't bought it.
Exactly, precisely. That's exactly it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not formulated like that in the Bible, but that's the truth of the matter.
I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah. No, it's good. We need contemporary phrasing for real truths.
Yes. Can you share a powerful story that illustrates, and I'm putting you on the spot with this, that illustrates the impact of Catholic education on a student's life? I have a small story on that, but...
a particular, I'm trying to think of most of the students that I personally interacted with over the years. They were university students.
Okay.
Of course.
All right.
I only taught high school for a year.
Right.
When I was very young, you know, for university, it would be you would have more. The stories that I remember are often ones when they were in usually moral quandaries.
Right. Yes. Yes. Yes.
And maybe if they came to talk to you, they were able to escape doing irreparable damage
Right.
to themselves. And I remember just one particular case of a student, and I saw her years later, and she had a daughter, and she wasn't going to have that daughter. And I don't frankly remember talking to her, but because I talked to her a lot, and so I'm sure we talked about the not to take the life of an unborn child.
Wow.
And she didn't, and so she remembered that. I didn't. Frankly, I didn't remember the particular conversation.
That's huge.
And she thanked me, and I was quite moved. I still am by that, So, but you don't get those stories in high school or not so often.
No. In university,
but you do change people, and I think it's often. I had a nickname which was more sort of that I was a tough marker and so on. A tough teacher. It rhymes with Miller, but that's different. It's more the interactions that change people. And,
It's funny that you mentioned it because our school, we were faced with, my wife and I, faced with our youngest daughter who has Down syndrome.
Right.
And we found out in utero.
Right.
And I can't even remember. Well, we found out, I think, through an ultrasound. It was expected. And even in the local hospital when we were living in Vancouver, we were all but encouraged to terminate that pregnancy. And there's a reason why I'm saying this is because the inspiration, the ultimate motivation for us to champion this school was because of my youngest daughter.
Yeah, sure.
And I had her out at the school months ago, and we were there, and I was showing her around the new campus. That is because she's
at the first campus.
Yeah, exactly. And I said to her, do you realize this massive building that you see here wouldn't have happened if you weren't born?
Wow.
And we didn't say yes.
Uh-huh.
And so I had to mention that after you just mentioned your...
Right. No, those things, well...
And she is our world revolves around our two kids, and she's been the biggest gift to our entire family and our extended family as well. And it saddens me that because abortion is an issue. It's a massive issue.
Public issue.
I heard a statistic. I don't know if it's 100% accurate, but it was from a man of the cloth that said this, that globally we're over 1.5 billion abortions.
Over the last 40 or 50 years,
which is mind-boggling. The reverence for human life is just, both
it's declined.
Sanctity is declined.
It's declined.
And we hope at our school
that the kids will acquire a pro-life way of looking at the world.
Foundation, yes.
That's what it is. It's to...
And taking care of our elderly.
That's the other end of the thing. That's hitting
both
us now.
From conception to its natural end.
No, and those are so fundamental, to be able to get across to folks.
It's huge.
It's huge.
And evangelizing in a school is also something that we hope, because we're going to have a lot of people from outside of the Catholic community that are coming in, a lot of students from outside of the Catholic community. And I'll tell you this one story which really touched my heart too. And it was at our last open house.
Right.
So we're promoting our new campus, of course, right now.
Of course.
And so we had the open house at our current campus in the gym, and it was well attended. We have over 300 people there, so it was fantastic. Everybody's anticipating the new building,
and they've all seen it. Anybody who comes knows where the new building is.
People have seen it. They've driven by on 24th Avenue,
to make sure that it's really there.
Exactly. Yeah. And one of the students got up to speak at the open house, and the student was really quite interesting because it was not Catholic. Mm-hmm. He's come through and he's going to be graduating this year.
Right.
And he's also going to get baptized this year.
Oh, really?
Too.
Oh, wonderful.
And so listening to his speech, and he ended with that, and I said, "There it is."
Right. No,
That's why
wonderful.
we're here.
Yeah.
Like those types of stories.
Yeah. No, those are.
We absolutely love to hear.
Yeah.
And we're creating servant leaders that we're sending out into
Right.
the world.
He'll go out in the world and do good things.
To do good things and be great contributors
Yeah.
to our society. So
They will be. I know that they will be. They're already there. They're already there. What you're going to do is increase the number because you'll have the facility and the wherewithal and able to help meet the needs.
The needs.
Because society needs schools like JP2. I mean, we just do.
Absolutely.
Would that it could be multiplied all over.
Yes, we hope to be a great example.
We'll leave that to the next couple of bishops.
Exactly, I agree. I know people have talked to me about universities already too, and I'm like, hold on a bit. Hold on a bit. Yeah, let us get this established. Your Grace, I am here with gratitude for you, for your support in the school, in our school, but not just in our school, and not just in the CISVA, but the book that you've written that's being used.
Yeah, it is used much to my surprise.
And congratulations to you for that and for championing Catholic education.
And congratulations to you, Troy, and your team for coming up with something that I think most people would have said, I'd like to do it, but that's impossible. Yeah. And you were able to dream and see, yes, it is possible with, and I'm sure you got support around you and so on. Great support.
Thousands of hours
I know.
Of people that have stepped up and chipped in.
That's one of the things, I think, that kind of sacrifice at the foundation of the school, that'll reap many benefits in the years to come, you know, because it's from the heart and from the, offering your talents.
And also, thank you. You're going to be retiring. Sadly.
Yes, I don't know exactly when. It'll be this year, though.
Right. Well, we're so grateful for everything that you've done here at the Archdiocese, and I can speak for me and of course the people around me. But you've done so much.
Well,
here.
It's a great local church or a great archdiocese, and the fact that there's a new secondary school kind of coming online is something that I go with, if I dare say it, with some pride that this is that happened, that there's such good folks who have brought this about. Well, thanks a million to you, Troy, and everyone everyone involved in the great project of the Academy.
I think this is a good time to wrap it up.
Yeah,
I know you're a busy man as well.
Yeah,
and you've got things to do.
There's a neo-catechumenal group coming to see me. I don't know whether you know them, but
they're coming.
They're coming at 4:15.
Okay.
So I still got half an hour. I can get my Coke in before.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
My 3:00 Coke.
The Catholic education does matter, and hence the name of our podcast. And so we will be doing more of these. Good. And maybe we'll have you on remotely from your retirement place.
I probably could be. I think.
That would
I'm
be
sure
fun.
I'll have a computer, and
yes.
I'm on a university campus, so I'm sure they have.
I'm sure you will. So thank you again for being here.
Thanks, Troy.
And for those of you that tuned in, please be sure to tune in again, because we will be hosting another podcast.
How often do you hope to do them?
We're going to have them come out every month.
Every month,
yes.
Okay. Good for you.
Absolutely. And if with success, maybe we'll even have them come out in more frequent.
Okay.
Yes.
Thanks a million.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for listening to Catholic Education Matters. If you enjoyed this episode, please follow the podcast on your favorite listening platform, rate it, and also leave a review. Don't forget to share this episode with your friends and family to help spread the word about the impact of Catholic education. Be sure to listen again. Welcome to Catholic Education Matters, the the podcast that celebrates the beauty of Catholic education. Join us as we share the stories of those making a lasting impact on Catholic education. Let's begin. Welcome to Catholic Education